Greetings to the D.Min students here in PMIN897 Project Design. This is your instructor, Dr. Larry Asplund, coming to you from my new home. I have just moved into a home, and you don't see my apartment kitchen behind me, but you know, it's fewer boxes, etc., but it's progress. Nevertheless, I find great joy to be able to participate with you whenever I can. And so I wanted to be able to stop by this evening and welcome you to week 4 in module 2. As you know, both modules 2 and 3 are 3-week modules because they are the bulk of your proposal. So it's important for us to be able to keep up and work together on these to make sure you feel good about your progress, that you understand clearly how these sections of your proposal work, and feel good about the work that you're doing in the process. I wanted to be able to give you some quotations from the summary of the literature information, really the review of the literature information as well from the Doctorate Ministry Handbook. I think it summarizes some good points. So if I can just do some quick quotations, I think it will help provide background for what we're working on in Module 2. First of all, the doctoral candidate will have performed a literature search while identifying the problem to be solved. And so really we assume that almost from the very beginning, from your orientation in PMIN700, you have been thinking about this. You have been focusing more and more on what your research question will be. And so the work that you've done in the various classes, the books that you have read, the papers you have written, etc., all somehow have some kind of relevance to what you're doing. They've led you to this point. So this section, that is to say the summary of the literature section in your proposal, should briefly summarize what others have done as related to the particular problem. Some of you in PMIN700 worked on an actual review of the literature, and so your project will basically involve you summarizing what you have already done. Second of all, it is expected that the doctoral candidate will continue to review the literature as the research is performed as an ongoing process. So even your, to a degree, your Chapter 2 as the full review of the literature, 30-plus pages, will be a bit of a work in progress. Your chair may have some ideas for some additional sources that will be helpful to you and will encourage you to add notes from those, etc. Number 3, include any related D.Min dissertations and ministry projects that could be accessed through the library's electronic database. So looking at projects that may be similar to what it is you're thinking about doing, it's really a gold mine for you in terms of discovering what others have discovered, looked at their bibliography, etc. Of course, mention other sources that will be valuable to you in your endeavor, academic, scholarly sources. Be sure to cover what you believe will be the top sources that will inform your subject. So you are just hitting the highlights of the summary. You're not unpacking any one of them per se, but you are summarizing, making sure that you present what you consider to be the key points, as well as the primary sources that you will find useful in your project. Be sure then that there's a variety of sources, of course, besides books, dissertations, ministry projects, journals, other kinds of scholarly sources. So the summary of the literature will include some of these things, of course. There will be primary sources in the field of study and also supporting sources, cross-disciplinary sources in the relevant field, your field. Relevant academic secondary sources. Of course, the secondary source is just one that comments on the primary source, unpacks it a bit. Academic sources like dissertations and theses, professional journal and periodical articles, peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed popular sources. I say peer-reviewed because not all popular sources are really going to be relevant to your research. Some are devotional, they're encouraging, etc. They're excellent, but they're not really going to contribute to your research. But there are popular sources that are not specifically academic that could be relevant, and so you want to be able to use those as well as relevant academic media sources. So the summary of the literature outline is your week 4 graded assignment. And it's really an exercise in organizing your notes. I mentioned last week that you are in the process of organizing your notes, separating them into 2 sections. One will be the summary of the literature, which just focuses on relevant scholarly literature, and then there will be the biblical, theological, historical foundations as well. So in Module 2, you're just working on the scholarly literature. So organize your notes, taken when you have been accessing relevant scholarly sources in some kind of logical order. So you're wanting to think about the best way to present your research. In the outline will indicate the order, the structure of your presentation, as well as what will be key resources for you as you go forward. So use subheadings to indicate your organization. When you think about composing the summary of the literature, you're going to have subheadings that will show the way you've structured your notes. They will indicate how you have determined is really the logical way to present your research. So the week 4 outline, it can be a standard outline with major headings and subheadings, Roman numeral 1, etc., which would be a major heading, then really a subheading, given that this is just a section in a proposal. And then, ABC, and those would be indicating your key resources. So your primary heading will be the title, the way that you're indicating how you have organized your notes, and then underneath that will be a listing of what you feel in that area are the key sources that you want to draw from when it comes to your summary of the literature. You will find you will basically expand that. You will unpack that when it comes to Chapter 2. Also, I've given you the opportunity to look at a literature review map, which comes from Dr. Chandler, who also, I think there's a kind of form of that in the text by Cresswell. I've given you a blank literature review map along with a sample map and course resources. We'll have an opportunity to look at that more specifically in our collaborator opportunity. Remember, this is just 10 pages. Your Chapter 2 will be an expansion of this summary, and it will be 30 plus pages. But this is just a summary. It's just hitting the highlights from your work in the scholarly literature. So the week 4 assignment, of course, is to post your summary of the literature outline. Post the outline in the group discussion forum, and then comment on and learn from the work of other members of your group. There are some of you doing similar kinds of work, so learn how another member of your group structured their notes. Maybe discover some resources that you think, I could use that in my work as well. So it'll be a kind of a learning community opportunity this coming week. Our second Collaborate experience will be Monday night, September the 12th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, I want to review the summary of the literature section of the proposal specifically. And I think, again, it would be helpful perhaps to look at how that differs from the biblical, theological, and historical foundations section. Also review the summary of the literature outline, that whole idea of outlining your notes in preparation for writing your summary of the literature. And I think it's just good to have plenty of opportunity to find out how you're doing so far in your, PMIN897 experience and what to anticipate going forward. I want you to feel comfortable with the process. And I want you to be confident that this is something you can do. And ultimately will succeed in doing. Being able to write a literature review is so important. It's a part of every formal academic writing, whether it be a peer-reviewed journal article or a master's thesis or obviously a doctoral dissertation. It just establishes that you've done your homework, that you are prepared to do something that is evidence-based, that is research-based. You've got a good foundation from the scholarly literature that will enable you to go forward and do a really excellent project. So Although it's a brief summary, I think it's important to be able to hit the highlights, report the highlights from your research in your proposal. So very important time together. I'm looking forward to being with you in our Collaborate session. And in the meantime, never hesitate to let me know how I may serve you. God bless you, everybody. I'll see you on Monday night.